Start in the courts and on a political matter. The High Court in Johannesburg is hearing a matter between the ANC Secretary-General Ace Magashule and the party today. Magashule wants the court to declare his suspension invalid, unlawful and unconstitutional. He was suspended after refusing to step aside as he faces corruption and fraud charges related to the controversial Free State asbestos project. The High Court has set down 2 days to hear the application. Let me take you live now to eNCA senior journalist, that's Siphamandla Goke, who is outside court and tracking that particular story. Siphamandla, let's start inside court before we talk about what's happening outside of court. What has happened this morning was, our understanding is that there was an application to intervene. Who brought the application and how has that gone?
Those who have been findings against them.
3 applications were brought by interested parties. Those are ANC members. In total, there were 3 applications here to intervene from ordinary ANC members. They include Mr. Judicial as one of the applicants. They wanted to join the proceedings in support of Mr. Ace Magashule, who is the suspended Secretary-General of the ANC. Well, this morning the court had to hear those applications and all of them have been dismissed because the court says, well, they are not urgent and they've been dismissed with costs. And you can imagine that the ANC is represented by Senior Counsel Vem Trengrove, one of the legal minds in South Africa. So that will come at a huge cost for those who wanted to intervene because they need to pay the costs for ANC legal representatives here. So from the morning up until now, the issue was dealing with preliminary issues. Up until now, we have only started with the main application where Advocate Dalimpofu, representing Mr. Ace Magashule, is arguing now they needed to get rid of those other issues before they could proceed with this application. There were mainly 2 issues there. One was the issue of this matter being brought forward on an urgent basis. The court is of the view that, well, that is not the case. There is nothing urgent about this. And there were those applications by intervening parties who are pro-Ace Magashule, some of his supporters who are ANC members. So in total, there were 3 applications, all of them dismissed with costs. And that application that this matter be treated on an urgent basis, perhaps let's listen to one of the judges dismissing that application to say this matter should be heard on an urgent basis.
I'm also not satisfied that a proper case has been made out as to why this court needs to, on the basis of urgency, have to adjudicate the relief that they seek. That relief may well be dealt with in the fullness of time by another court. And in that regard, we're not satisfied that a proper case has been advanced in respect of the urgency of this application.
So that's Judge Kolapen there of the Gauteng Division of the High Court, the Johannesburg Local Division, delivering that decision on those applications. And I'm struck by the contrast there, Siphamandla, between this being a virtual hearing of this case and the context and backdrop where you are, where I can see a stage and I can see some people who are assembled there in the name of Ace Magashule.
Outside, it's not virtual, it's physical. This is where the political rally is. Those legal arguments are continuing. And Ace Magashule is in the vicinity, by the way. He's sitting somewhere where he's monitoring those proceedings virtually. His legal team is busy fighting for him. Outside, his supporters are showing moral and political support. They have come here, even though it's not a large crowd, but Ace Magashule did tell us yesterday that he was discouraging his supporters from coming to court to support him. Linge Ndabambi, who is my hard-working colleague, will show you. You have seen the setup to Lasizwe in KwaZulu-Natal, whether at the Durban High Court or at the High Court sitting in Durban in KwaZulu-Natal or in Pietermaritzburg. These are the same people who support former President Jacob Zuma. As we speak now, Kalni House is busy addressing these people who are gathered here, ANC supporters and Ace Magashule supporters. Our viewers, health experts and authorities, law enforcement agencies will be worried about this gathering because it has a potential of becoming a super spreader event. There is not much social distancing here to Lasizwe. Some people are not wearing masks, others are wearing masks, but I can tell you that others are not adhering to COVID-19 regulations, and that will be concerning, bearing in mind that Gauteng is in the middle of a devastating third wave. Yesterday, more than 17,000 new infections and 10,000 of those are in Gauteng. So this gathering will be a concern to many people because it's got a potential of becoming a super spreader event. But on the podium, it's the likes of Kalni House, who is behind him. They're wearing a black suit, who is taking a seat right now as we speak. He is one of those who had brought in an application to intervene and join the proceedings in support of Ace Magashule. He is also a frequenter in terms of going to KwaZulu-Natal High Courts, whether in Maritzburg or Durban, to support former President Jacob Zuma. He calls himself one of the members of the Radical Economic Transformation Champions. So you've got the RET champions here coming to support Ace Magashule. The script is the same. These are politically motivated charges that are underway in Bloemfontein, and the suspension is unconstitutional. It's meant, according to them, to derail the Secretary-General of the ANC to ensure that he is removed from office. So that is what is happening here. The political speeches are underway. The legal arguments are continuing virtually. We'll wait and see, because tomorrow is another day. This matter has been set down for 2 days.
You say the script is the same, and I'm starting to pick up a pattern in that even the cast is the same in the various stages where this political contestation at least plays itself out, be it in Pietermaritzburg or when we are in the Free State and that other matter, the criminal matter where Ace Magashule is an accused person. Lastly then, Siphamandla, you spoke about the 3 applications to intervene that were dismissed. Now you're saying at the start of it, Advocate Dalimpofu was addressing the court on the issue of urgency. How much of a glimpse have we gotten from those arguments in terms of the thrust of what he'll be arguing about Ace Magashule's suspension in terms of Rule 25.70 of the ANC Constitution?
When we were tortured,
at the center of this application is exactly that rule which talks about the issues of discipline and suspension. He will be arguing that, well, in this case, as we have seen in Ace Magashule's court papers here that he has filed, his argument is that, number one, his suspension should have been spearheaded by the National Working Committee of the African National Congress, which is responsible for the day-to-day running of the organization. He argues in his court papers, as we will hear Advocate Dalimpofu arguing as well, that at least Ace Magashule should have been suspended by the National Executive Committee of the ANC, which should have called a special National Executive Committee meeting to deal with his issue. And the argument here at the center is that Dalimpofu will be arguing that Ace Magashule's suspension is unconstitutional because in terms of legal opinions that were sought by the ANC, there were 5 legal opinions that were sought by the ANC from various eminent persons, including their stalwarts, by the way, who have a law background. They include former Treasurer General Matthew Posa. According to Ace Magashule and Dalimpofu, they will be arguing that the legal opinion that they got from, or that the ANC got from Matthew Posa, was against this step-aside rule. So therefore, his suspension and the general step-aside rule and its enforcement is unconstitutional because Ace Magashule is arguing that it tramples on his constitutional right. His advocate, or his legal representative, Advocate Dalimpofu, will be arguing that the ANC Constitution and that rule about discipline and suspension of members is not above the Constitution of the country. He is accused in a criminal matter which is underway in Bloemfontein in the Free State. But his argument is he is innocent until proven otherwise by a competent court of law in South Africa. So he's taking his case and building it around the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution of the Republic. He says the ANC Constitution is not above the Constitution of the country.
All right, and have we become familiar with those arguments? And part of what we expect will be argued will be the argument that Ace Magashule's attempt to suspend the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa actually should be upheld, that they will be arguing that it was a valid action by the Secretary-General. For now, let's leave it there. eNCA senior journalist, that's Siphamandla Koke, outside the court in Johannesburg. So, yeah, I mean, part of the difficulty is that the wording of the ANC clause 25.70 of their constitution actually does talk about the Secretary-General or the Provincial Secretary acting on the authority of the NEC, the NWC, the PEC or the PWC may suspend a person if they believe that that is in the interests of the ANC. So Ace Magashule's argument is that Jesse Duarte was not clothed with the necessary powers to be able to carry out that function, which in terms of the Constitution is to be carried out by the Secretary-General, who was at the time Ace Magashule. So we look forward to hearing that ANC versus ANC area of law. Let's